All right, so now we're going to look at going into guillotines from open guard. All right, and you're going to see a lot more movement here because of the fact that my partner can move around, obviously, because he's not in closed guard. And we're going to see these guillotines coming from scenarios where I'm in a seated guard and my partner's down on the knees. Now, usually this is going to come from some kind of snap, like so, some kind of off balance, where I get my partner, maybe I threaten a sumigashi. If I fail the sumigashi, and then we go in and we lock up and we go into some kind of, guillotine sumigashi combo here, depending on if whether or not contingent upon connecting our hips to our partner's hips. Like I want to pull my partner in and lock some kind of scenario where I get control over my partner's hips. If I can't do that, when I feel like my partner's running around from side to side, whatever the case is, then it's sumigashi action. It's time to roll my partner through. If she does pass my legs, there's a lot of different variables from here because of the fact that my opponent now is very mobile because I don't have control of the hips initially. All right. In closed guard, I initially have the hip-to-hip connection, and then I lock the guillotine. When I'm in open guard, I have to lock the guillotine first and then establish a hip-to-hip connection. So it's a different, it's a different dynamic here when you're playing from an open guard. All right, so when we're playing with someone where I'm in seated guard and my partner's on her knees, and we're looking to lock ourselves into guillotine, when we initially catch our partner's head in the guillotine or in the chin strap, the front headlock, whatever the case is, what I want to make sure of is that my shoulders are concave and in front of my hips, okay? The concave, obviously, shoulders are going to allow us to punch our hands through into various positions, but the shoulders in front of the hips are going to allow us to stay in a seated position long enough for us to actually set the hands on the guillotine without our partner just jumping to side control. If I try to lock a guillotine, if I pull myself into this position and my shoulders go behind my hips, my partner now can just drive forward and press me down, and now it's hard for me to set the hand. She's passing my guard, and it gives me all kinds of trouble from here, okay? And it just falls apart. So what I want to make sure of is that when I go to initially lock the guillotine, while I'm setting my hands, is that when I lock up, however it may be, I get this initial catch that my shoulders are well in front of my hips. So now from here, if my partner tries to drive forward, it's not going to be nearly as easy. He tries to circle past my legs, it also won't be nearly as easy, and I can follow much easier. You're going to have a much easier time in this position once you initially lock than you are in this position if you initially lock. So just a general rule, when you snatch the guillotine, however it may be, when you hit the setup, you want to get those shoulders concave, and you want to keep your shoulders well in front of your hips so your partner can't just instantly jump past your legs. All right, so now we're going to look at catching our partner's head. We call this footballing because we just catch our partner's head like a football, like so. Like when you see the guys, like running backs, for example, they make pass-offs from the quarterback. They just go in and they catch the football like so. That's why we call it footballing. So right from here, we're going to be playing our normal hand fighting game. We're going to be feinting, going in, trying to move our partner around. And then now right from here, we're just going to tuck one leg to the inside, okay? Once we have one leg tucked to the inside, we're going to take the opposite hand up. All right. Now, it's usually easiest to go left leg tuck, right hand grab, but you can also go the opposite way. But you're going to feel it's kind of a little bit awkward if you go left hand tuck, left hand collar tie. It's usually easiest if you go left leg tuck, right hand collar tie, so I can roll up and then snatch my partner's head. But you can theoretically do either hand from here, but it just will be a little bit more smooth. If you go left leg, if you tuck your left leg in and you go right hand collar tie and you snatch and you football to the left hand. So right from here, we're going to be playing with a hand fighting game. We're playing around, moving around, whatever the case is, and we get a collar tie on our partner. Right from here, a lot of times what I'll look to do is I'll look to start pushing into my partner with the collar tie. Now, as my partner goes to push back into me, we're just going to pull ourselves up and we're just going to roll up and over the shin, and our butt is going to come slightly off the ground into this position. And as our butt comes off the ground, we're just going to football and catch our partner's head in like so. And we can play a game where we pull, push. We move here. Pull, push. We pull, push. And then we football, we snatch, and we're ready to go in and play our game. Now, we can lock any kind of guillotines from here. We can lock power. We can lock figure four. We can lock arm in, high wrist, whatever we want. And then, of course, the just situation to situation. Because I don't have connection to my partner's hips, again, I generally prefer to go in with arm in variations, but the choice is yours on what you want to finish. All right, so now we're going to look at a basic collar tie, bicep tie, failed sumigachi, getting our partner's head low, and then just going right into front to headlocks and guillotines from here. So right from here, we just go in and we take a collar tie on our partner. We take a traditional inside bicep tie on our partner like so. Now we're just going to look to start putting our partner's head down to the floor. If we can successfully get our partner's head down to the floor, we can go and hit sumigachi. Many times what starts happening from here is our partner will take the hand and she'll post out like so. If I can tuck my partner's elbow underneath the chin, now when she goes to post, it'll be difficult. But a lot of times preemptively, she'll post like so. So right from here, we go in and we get our grips. Now I load my partner onto me like so, and now I look to tuck her elbow underneath her chin and start the sumigachi action. If I can do so, obviously we take our partner over. Many times we get halfway through and my partner posts. Right from this position, we just come forward, we scoot our hips back, and now we're ready to go in and lock up our guillotine. Okay, so it'll look like we're hand fighting, we're playing our game, we're playing collar ties, we're pulling, we're pushing, and then right from here we go in. And the second we go to scoot, or we go to sweep, we scoot our butt in, we pull our partner towards us, and now right from here, we go to hit the sumigachi. Now immediately, right from this position, I'm going to back my hips up, so I use the collar tie, and a combination of the collar tie and my 2 feet on the floor to push my hips back slightly behind my shoulders, and now from here we can go in and lock up with our guillotines and go to work from there. All right, so now there are 3 different leg positions contingent upon what your partner is looking to do defensively, okay? If I lock up any kind of guillotine, okay, I'm not gonna go through all the guillotines from here, but the choice of guillotine is yours, all right? Any kind of guillotine that I'm looking to attack, my partner has the same reactions with her lower body. She can stay low on her knees. She can come up off of her knees into a tripod when I lock the guillotine, or she can start trying to stuff my legs down, which usually ends me up in half guard. So if she stays low, I take my shin across my partner's body, and I throw my leg up and over her back. If she comes into a high tripod, we lock close guard. If she starts fiddling around with my legs with her hands, we lock half guard. And we can finish the same way with the same mechanics with every guillotine, okay? So regardless of what the guillotine is, we go in, we lock in arm in. Right from here, I fall down to my left hip. My partner stays low on her knees. Okay, so obviously I want to set the guillotine before we go. So right from here, we football it however it may be. We move in and we scoot our hips back. Now right away, we pull our hands up nice and high, however it may be. We feed our wrists through, however it may be. If my partner at any point is trying to push forward into me, we just keep scooting back and away. If he's trying to start circling, we can follow, we can even post the hand on the floor. We can scoot and we can adjust. Okay, so we want to set the hands. This gives us time now to set the hands as we want. So we want the shoulders forward, we can scoot the hips back, we can rotate with our partner so it's hard for her to start moving across my body and moving the side control. I know which way she wants to go, she wants to move in this direction. So as she goes to move in this direction, I just set the hands as she goes to move, okay? Now once we actually fall, if she has her knees down on the floor, we always go shin across like so. So my partner tries to hop across the side control. She can't. Then I fire my leg up and over, and now it's the same as always. My knees come into my chest. I crunch my partner's chin down to her chest. And we finish right from this position. If at any point she goes into a high tripod from here, and she tries to alleviate pressure, which is a good strategy on her part, then right from here, we just pull our knee down to the floor, and we snake our leg across, like so, okay? So right from here, our shin's across. She wants to go into a high tripod. This temporarily alleviates the pressure, go ahead. But right from here, it allows us to punch our foot across either like so, or, come back. Let's say, come up. Or from here, let's say she has her hip down and it's hard for me to get my foot across, whatever the case is. We can always come underneath like so, go along the floor, lock up, and now we're finishing from closed guard once again. So we can either extract, rotate towards them. We can either extract 1, 2. As we're trying to do that, many times what happens is your partner's trying to pummel the leg. She's trying to use her hand to stuff my leg now, whatever the case is, and she steps over my leg as I'm trying to do it. Right from here, we just go in and we lock half guard. Most of the time, I don't want my partner's hips rising. So if I just lock half guard from here, what I want to do is go foot over foot and put my feet down on the ground. So when she goes to bring her hips up high, it's much harder to do so. She can't raise her hips all the way. If I just lock half guard, she can come up and she can high tripod, and now her knee can come free. This is not what I want, because she can post to my knees from here. So I want to point my 2 knees high at the ceiling. I want to put my feet on the floor, and then I want to slightly pull my knees into my chest. So now when she goes to high tripod and push on my knee, she can't push my knee down. If I just lock my legs arbitrarily here, she can bring the knee up, and now from here, if she goes into mount, she mounts me. This is a big issue for me. Okay? So if I lock half guard, I do it in a very specific way. I go into this position, we put our feet on the floor. Now right from here, 2 knees pinch around my partner's legs, I point my knees towards the ceiling. And now I pull my knees into my chest. Now when she goes to free that knee, she says there's no way she can do it. And now we can get finishes from here. Not nearly as strong, but you can get finishes from here. And then you can play kind of hybrid game where you have a half guard over your partner's leg, but you fire your leg over your partner's back. So now when she goes to bring the hips high, it's going to be much harder. It's not going to be impossible. She can do it, but it'll be much harder for her to raise the hips and get over my knee. And now I can pull the knees in, and we can finish right from this position. So there are 3 key ways that we're going to finish with the lower body position contingent upon your partner's defensive reactions. If she's staying on top of you. If she stays on her knees, we put our shin across the hips, we fire the leg over. If she goes into a high tripod, we can always lock closed guard. And if at any point she's trying to step over our legs, pummel her legs, push my knee down and pass my guard, which is what she should be trying to do, and we lock into a half guard, and then from there, we can either lock half guard or throw the leg up and over our partner's back. And if at any point we have half guard locked from here, and she goes into a high tripod, we can just immediately start taking our legs out, going in, locking up closed guard, and then working to finish right from there. All right, so now let's look at an opponent who goes into a defensive roll to bottom position instead of staying on top. Now we looked at closed guard when we have our legs locked around our partner, rolling into top mounted position. But what if we have a half guard? What if we have our leg across our partner's hips? Okay. When we have our leg across our partner's hips and she goes to roll, she's going to end us up in a shin mount. All right. Now, because we have connection at the lower body, this left leg will anchor us in to our partner's hip like so. So when she goes to roll on through, she will carry me into a shin mount. Now, most of the time from here, your partner's worried about getting strangled. She's worried about the guillotine. She's not worried about inside elbow position. So a lot of times, my knee can just slide right up inside my partner's armpit and then just slap the floor and move right into a mounted position. And we can finish right from mount by crossing the ankles as we did previously from closed guard when our partner went into a defensive roll. Okay? So a lot of times, as she goes to roll, we end up in this position, and then right from here, we just slide up, hit the floor, and we're ready to go. If I see that I end up in a shin mount, and she does try to go into a knee elbow escape, she's a good player, from here, and we just go in, and we finish right from a shin mount. We crunch her chin into the chest, and we go into a shin mount. We sprawl, we push our partner's hips down, we elongate the body, we pin the hips, and then the upper body is what finishes. They're not as strong, but still strong. From half guard, and she has to pull us up and over. From this position, a lot of times I try to free my knee as we go. So as she has to pull me over, she's worried about this guillotine, I try to free my knee and move into a 3/4 mount. So then from there, we can go in, we can go into a high tripod, and we can pass while attacking the guillotine right from this position, and we can pummel our butterfly hooks in and go into passes into mounted situations and pass our partner, or let go of the guillotine and use it to pass and play a positional game from there. Okay? If, worst case scenario, you get caught in half guard and your knee doesn't come free and your partner rolls you up and over, and I thought I just cannot free the knee, I can still go into a high tripod from here, put a butterfly hook in and start my passing. But if I just cannot free the knee, worst case scenario, we just pommel our hand in here. We post the hand, we build height, and as our partner slips the head out, we transition to an underhook. We end up in top half, getting ready to pass, and go into all of our attacks with our positional play from top half guard. So if she rolls me over from a full closed guard, we end up in a mounted position with our legs locked. If we have our shin across the hip and the leg over, we end up usually in a mounted position. Or if she knee elbows escape, we go into a shin mounted finish. And then half guard bottom will end us up in half guard top, where we can either pass into 3/4 mount or play a positional game once we get to top position. All right, so now when we follow a roll, this is a super important skill. And most people, when you start to get to the highest levels, mess this up. They're so overzealous with trying to stay connected and get a connection with a guillotine that when someone goes to roll defensively, they try to follow them into a mounted position. The problem is that when you don't have connection of your hips to your partners in some way, it will always allow your partner to bring either one knee to elbow on one side, or if you don't have an arm in variation, knee to elbow on both sides. So it always ends up happening. If someone's naive and not very high level, you'll end up in a mounted position. So if I go for a guillotine, for example, and I lock up here, and I try to go for a high elbow, let's say, and my partner goes to roll, and she just goes into like some random roll, and she doesn't have her knees and elbows connected, it is theoretically possible where I can come up and I can just follow my partner into a mounted position. Okay, so what's going to happen at the lower levels is you go for some kind of guillotine. The arm in guillotines are the best way to prevent this because your partner then doesn't have the ability to lock or to connect knee and elbow on one side, only on the other side. So at the lower levels, what will happen is, let's say you go for a guillotine, your partner goes to go into a defensive roll, you follow them over, you end up in mounted position. You start getting into higher and higher levels, what's going to happen is your partner goes to try to go into a defensive roll, and as she goes to do that, she just connects knees and elbows. So now you end up in a situation where not only do you not have the ability to guillotine your partner, but if she starts shifting you out to the right side and the guillotine is not that deep, right side, from here, now she starts punching an underhook, she can go ear to back, and now you're potentially in jeopardy of having your back being exposed. So when you start going with better and better people, following them, trying to follow them into mount when your hips aren't connected is just an option that's never going to end up working insofar as getting to a good position or getting into guillotines. It might end you in top position. It could end you with your back taken, but it might get you to top position, but you're not going to finish the guillotine. Or if I want to attack the guillotine or end up in a good positional play, a much better way to follow is to allow my partner to roll and to roll with her and force a front headlock. Okay, what do we mean by this? The second my partner goes into a defensive roll, instead of trying to follow her into this position, what I do is I roll with her. So as she goes to rolls, I move into this position. And now right from here, as she goes to continue the roll, I just back roll up and over my shoulder, and now we're in front headlock and we're ready to go. Most of the time, the second we end up in front headlock, I can always punch in a guillotine on one side or the other in various ways because of the fact that we use movement to lock the guillotine. All right, one of the big things that we're looking at today is using movement, diversions, distractions, deception to lock up a guillotine when my partner's thinking about something else, okay? So right from here, as we go into guillotine, she goes to hit a defensive roll. I don't make the mistake of following to mount because she can connect knees and elbows. As she goes to come up, we come up with her. And now immediately, we can shoot our guillotine in. We can pass off, we can throw by, we can shoot our guillotine in. We can go in right from here. So we can halt ourselves into a guillotine and shoot our guillotine in. And so don't make the mistake of doing things that will work at low levels and then trying to getting good at them. And then at higher levels, you try to follow someone into a top position, into mounted position, and you run into knee and elbow connection. Follow the person all the way through. So the second I go for guillotine, regardless of the guillotine, whether it's an arm in variation, whether it's an arm out variation, as my partner goes to roll, we go in, and now we can punch ourselves into various forms of guillotine. You're always going to have much more control if you're using an arm out guillotine initially, switching to control of an arm, putting an arm in variation, even if it's just grabbing over the tricep. So as I go in, I start maybe high elbow. Maybe she goes to hit a roll from here. We control our partner's arm, and now right from here, we're ready to go in, punch in, and sit to all of our guillotines, go in, and start finishing our partner from these positions, okay? So don't make the mistake of trying to follow your partner over when you don't have connection of the hips. When you have connection of your partner's hips, it's much harder for it to create that knee-elbow connection. But when there's separation in the hips, it's a lot harder for me to follow my partner to top position without her just bringing legs inside and putting you back in butterfly guard and immediately off balancing you. All right, so now we're going to look at the scenario. There we go, right?
Sorry.
Where we try to go for these guillotines, whatever the case is, and my partner doesn't start stacking me, doesn't roll through, but I feel like the guillotine is just not there, and I feel like I'm not able to set the hands properly. I'm not going to be able to actually get a good bite on the guillotine, and maybe I'm even losing my partner's head. So right from here, we attempt to go for that same Sumigaeshi action that we looked to go into previously. Now, right from this position, if I have my partner's arm trapped, it's much easier to load my partner's weight up and onto me because I have control over the head and the arm, and that makes the Sumigaeshi easier, okay? And it gives me better control overall. Many times, if I have any kind of arm out version from here, when I try to hit the Sumigaeshi from this position, number one, I go and the head just pops out, my partner pops the head out and bases, like so, or two, my partner will take this hand and she'll bring it all the way over and base on the floor and try to use it for base up in this position and go into a high tripod and make things hard for me. Whether she bases out on the floor like so, or whether I go for the guillotine and the head just starts to pop out, we're just going to immediately start taking our hand up into position to go into shoulder crunch Sumigaeshi. Where right from here we switch to shoulder crunch, my partner goes to push back into me, and now we just hit a shoulder crunch, we take our partner out and over to the right side, as we've seen many times before. So either I'm losing the head, or my partner goes into a 4-point position, where I got to take my partner up and over from a situation where I don't have my partner's arm controlled, and from here she either bases the hand and she goes into a high 4-point like so. We just go in right here and we look to start going in, getting our hands in position, going shoulder crunch. Or I go to take her over. Maybe I go to hit the Sumigaeshi and she bases and sits the weight back and the head pops out. As that happens, we just go right in. We go right into our shoulder crunch and we go to work right from here. So we chain a failed guillotine, a failed Sumigaeshi, and then we hit a third part of the trilemma. So you go into your shoulder crunch Sumigaeshi, we'll go back in the opposite direction. All right, so now we're going to look at situations where we use Yoko Sumigaeshi. So whether it be, maybe I go to come up into this position, maybe I'm playing a heisting game, and I go to football my partner's head like so, and then from this position, as I go to fall back, she just wipes my legs on by, and she ends up in situations like this. So maybe it happens on a transition through movement, where I try to come up, and I'm playing a game where I'm trying to snap my partner down. I football the head. I go to sit back into the guillotine and set it, and my legs get passed on by like so. Or my partner right away just goes in, and she backs my legs to the side, and she moves into a side body lock with the head on the outside. All right. Whenever I see this, the first thing I want to make sure of is that my partner doesn't bring her head high and move ear to back and expose my back from here. So I want to cover my partner's head, and I want to keep that elbow nice and low. Now, I can't have my legs flat out like this. My partner steps over my legs. This is a disaster. She figure fours the legs, they can't move anywhere. So the second I see my partner moves into this position, immediately the first thing I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to use my left leg and kick my partner's leg out the best I can. So when she goes to bring that knee in, it's going to be hard from here for me to just heist. If I go to heist and she drives her right foot forward or her right shoulder forward, it's hard for me to get up into this position because she can just turn your right shoulder down and return my hips to the floor. All right. So right from here, immediately, I want to look to insert my right leg. I do this by making space and then inserting my right leg into this position. So now when she goes to bring the knee back in, now I have some kind of wedging and some kind of distance management mechanism between myself and my partner. So now when I pull my knees into my chest and I forward shift and she goes to return me to the floor like she did previously, it's much easier for me to get up from here. It's still going to be a struggle, but much easier. Now, right from this position, I start pressuring into my partner. If I pressure into my partner and I put my knee on her hip and she doesn't pressure back, and we just fall across and we end up in top position. This can happen, but it's extremely unlikely. Most of the time what's going to happen from here is the second I start pressuring into my partner, she starts pressuring back into me. The second I see this, I take my left knee and I think about sliding my left knee all the way up to past my partner's knee line, all the way through to penetrate as far as I can towards my partner's feet. So right from here, I slide my left knee all the way in with the intention of taking my partner up and over my right shoulder. What takes my partner over the right shoulder is the ability to crunch her chin to her chest with her right elbow. So right from here, we take everything up and over into this position. Now, again, with someone naive, you can come up and do a back roll and come up into a mounted position. But if my partner brings knees to elbows, come up into guard. So a much more wise attack from here would be to wait for my partner to roll in a given position. We come up, now we have front headlock, and now we can start going into all of our attacks. Okay, so right away, we go in, maybe my partner bats my legs, I'm flying guard, my partner bats the legs to the side, and she goes in and gives a side body lock. Most of the time, my legs will be in here. If my legs aren't in here, and I made a mistake, whatever the case, they end up out here, I have to make space for my legs to come in. The easiest way is immediately posting on my partner's knee. As she goes to bring that knee in and push me down, we bring our leg to the inside. Now, right from here, she goes to drive in. She sits me down to the floor. I forward shift, and I get up and I heist. Conversely, what you can also do, you cannot just heist from here, but what you can do is you can start with the bridge. So I bridge into my partner. When she goes to bring her shoulder forward, I can get up, and then I can insert my leg. All right, so we have a couple different ways of getting up. Both are good. I'm not going to say which one's better. You can post in the leg. That one's great. Now I can forward shift and get up. Or I can give a big bridge as she goes to return me to the floor. We get up, and our leg goes in. Now, right from here, we start pressuring into our partners. She doesn't do anything. She falls to bottom position. As she goes to pressure back into me, there's two things I'm looking for. The deepest possible penetration with my left knee between my partner's knees and crunching in my partner's chin to the chest through my right elbow. So now as she goes to drive back into me, we end up in this position here. Now, right from here, if we're going to back roll, we could potentially go to mount, but running into issues with knee and elbow connection. So a lot of times, if we're going to back roll, right from here, if we're going to back roll, we'll do it in an asymmetrical position, landing in something like side control rather than mounts. So as she goes to come in towards me, we end up in this situation, where now we can go into cross hachigurami, or we can just take our legs out, and now we can lock guillotine from side control. So now when she tries to put me back in guard from here, it's going to be much more difficult from here. Another great way, as previously stated, we push into our partner. She goes to push back into me. Do that Yoko Sumigeshi, and right from here, as she goes to pick a side, we get up with our partner, and we fall right into scenarios where we can go to guillotines and work from there. So we can use guillotine in combination with Yoko Sumigashi when I feel like my partner is flanking my knees to work from this position. Having our legs inside, forward shifting, or if our legs are outside, heist things, leg comes inside. Pressuring in, she goes to drive in towards me, goes to get back up. We're right back up to the front head, and now we're ready to go in and start our attacks. Okay, and now as always, in the idea of chaining moves together, and of course, failing at the upper body, failing positional games, and going into attacks on our partner's legs. So this time from here, we go into the Yoko Sumigashi, we slide everything in, we get our partner up and up and up and up, but we feel like the hands come up and my partner's head, I just can't crunch a chin to the chest, I feel like I'm going to lose this battle. Right from here, the second I see this, we just take the hand to the inside and we post on our partner's lap, like so. So if she tries to come back and cross-face me or collar tie, I can easily clear that hand off. And now we just grab a hold of our partner's legs, we invert into a situation where we can trap our partner's primary legs, we can scoop our partner's secondary leg, we can sit our partner down, and we can go from an attempted guillotine into an attempted Yoko Sumigashi into attacks on our partner's legs. So right from here, however it may happen, she bumps the legs on by, she gets that side body lock, and right from this position, we go in and we look to start heisting. Now, right away, we slide to Yoko Sumigashi. She posts the hands out high and wide, and the Sumigashi fails. Right from here, the second we see I'm not going to be able to take my partner over, we just take everything to the inside position. We continue to lift. We get control over our partner's leg. We set our partner down to the floor, and we're in business going into attacks on the lower body. All right, so now let's look at a situation where we lock up a guillotine and our opponent passes my guard, but she passes to the incorrect side that she wants to pass to. All right, if she can pass with her head on the opposite side of her body, this is what she's looking to do. If she passes with her head on the same side as her body, this is not really a great situation for her. All right, understand that there are certain types of guillotines. If your partner does pass to either side, you can still finish them. All right, so if I lock up a guillotine here, and I go into a low elbow guillotine, and she stays on her knees from here, you can finish her partner potentially. If she goes into a tripod or a 4-point from here, you can't finish your partner, which your partner will almost always do. You can't finish your partner if you have an arming guillotine. But there are guillotines, like high wrist, for example. Here, where I go through, my partner goes even into a 4-point or a tripod from here, they can still finish our partner. A power guillotine, she goes into a 4-point or a high tripod, we can still finish our partner. A high elbow guillotine, she goes into a high tripod or a 4-point, we can still finish our partner from here. A figure 4 guillotine, same thing. We can still finish our partner from here. Okay? So there are many situations where you can finish your partner with the guillotine, even though you don't have the hip-to-hip connection, because of the fact that your partner is trying to stay in top position. She's not doing anything defensively. And even though your hips aren't connected, the chin to the chest motion is so strong because she's driving forward into you that you can potentially finish your partner from here. All right? If you use arm-in guillotines or low elbow guillotines, it'll be very difficult to finish your partner from this position. She goes into a high tripod. But with the rest of the guillotines we looked at, we can finish our partner from there. Now, when our partner passes to the incorrect side or ends up on the incorrect side, what are we looking to do? If we can finish the guillotine, obviously, we just finish the guillotine. If I feel that I'm looking to finish a guillotine, for example, and my partner goes into a defensive roll from here, we just follow our partner on up as we did before. We follow our partner through. We end up in a front headlock. If we feel that I cannot get my partner going over, I feel like my partner's not going into a defensive roll, I can't finish the guillotine, and I'm just kind of stalemated from this position. Let's say I have an arm-in guillotine, for example. When I have an arm-in guillotine, I'm just going to take everything up high, and now right from this position,
I'm going to immediately look to start bridging over my right shoulder. So I bridge right shoulder, and then when I get her up to a tipping point, I'm bridging right shoulder to left shoulder. So now when she goes to base out, I bridge, I bridge right, left, and we take our partner up and over for the win. So I load my partner up onto me. So to get into this position, we can crunch the chin to the chest through a bridge. So we start bridging out to the right side. When she goes to base, we bridge right shoulder, left shoulder, and we follow our partner up into a front headlock and go into attacks from there. Same can be said, a little bit harder because you don't have control over the arm, but same can work. Same can be said from a low elbow guillotine, where I crunch the chin to the chest. We bring everything up and over, and we move to a front headlock. Most of the time what's going to start happening from here is the second you start bridging and putting heat on from these positions, your partner will start to go into high tripod to alleviate the pressure of the strangle. So as I start to bring everything up high, crunch your chin to the chest, she will most likely go into a high tripod. The second I see this, I immediately look to bring legs inside. Now I use my right knee to make space for my left legs, and now we go right back in to that same Systematically action. My partner's forehead's in the floor, we take our partner over with Systematically. So there's a lot of good options from here. If I see at any point my partner alleviates the pressure and the knees come off the ground, this is perfect territory now because the forehead's on the ground. So we insert that left leg and start lifting, take our partner over and go into Systematically. And now we can either choose to one, turn belly down and come on top into top position, or two, we looked at more advanced ways where I can come on top like so, but if my partner connects knee and elbow from here, it's going to be hard to step over. So I can hit Systematically, come back up. I can hit Systematically. The second I hit Systematically, we stay here. Now our partner goes to pick a direction. We come up with her, and now we can go in and start going into all of my attacks. So if my partner passes to the wrong side, there's not too many good options that she can find herself in. And many people won't try to pass that side. A lot of times, for example, she'll find herself there off of a double leg, for example, where if we're wrestling, she hits a double, and she sits me down. And we end up in this position. Sorry, go back. And we end up in this position. She sits me down from here. Now, as she goes to try to jump across, I'm always looking to block her, to stop her from jumping across. The second the hips come up, that right knee can always come in. When the right knee comes in, it makes space for the left leg, but also stops her from jumping across the opposite side. If she goes to jump across, we can just follow her into top position and get some good offense going. So regardless of the guillotine, and obviously there's a lot of information there, you're gonna have to go back and replay it. Depending upon what guillotines you can finish your partner with, what guillotines you have to start sweeping your partner with. There's a lot of different options from there. And any of the guillotines that you can finish your partner with, you can immediately just go into the same Systematically options, the roll through and all those options as well. So you don't have to just go for a finish if you have a high elbow, for example. The second she goes to high tripod, you can finish the high elbow. Okay, you can finish the high elbow from here, but you can also, instead of the Systematically hook, you go for the Systematically just as easy as you did before, and then go into your attacks. So you can chain a lot of these moves together, and you have a pretty clear pathway of where you want to go, contingent upon what your partner's defensive reaction is. All right, so now let's look at a situation where my partner goes to jump to the right side. So she moves to the correct side, where we lock up the guillotine, whatever the case is, and my partner immediately looks to bat my legs on by, and she goes to move out to this position. The number one thing that my partner will screw me up with is if she converts to a crossface. If this hand comes up and over my head, and now her head is higher than mine, and she has a crossface and she controls me, she can pop the head out, she can control me in side control, she can go for Von Flue strangles, there's all kinds of things she can do from there. The major thing, the most important thing I'm concerned with when my partner jumps across to the correct side that she's looking to pass to, which will screw me up, is to control my partner's wrist. All right? So as she goes to jump across, whatever guillotine I have, arm in, high elbow, whatever the case is, if you're not looking to finish, you're looking to get to your partner's wrist. Now there are, again, guillotines where if your partner passes across to the opposite side, you can finish your partner from here. So for example, if I have the figure 4 guillotine and she hops across and she goes to pressure me down, even when she goes cross face, she'll get finished from here. If I have a power guillotine and she goes to jump across, you can still finish from here. If you have high elbow, same thing. She goes to jump across, she can get finished from here. If you have a strong high wrist and she goes to jump across, she can get finished from here, okay? So any guillotine where you can physically see your fingertips emerge beyond her shoulder, you can finish your partner in if she jumps across the correct side, even though she's past your guard. Okay, so keep this in mind. With the low elbow guillotines or arm-in guillotines, this will backfire and you'll lose the battle. All right, so this is all very specific, contingent upon what guillotines you have. Now, they make a difference. All right. Now, when my partner goes to hop across, if I don't have a bite on the guillotine, so the basic rule is, if my partner goes to hop across and I cannot see my own hand emerging above her shoulder, you have to abandon the submission and play a positional game. If my hand is already up here, you have a chance of submitting your partner or forcing her to go into a roll through. I can beat her from here. And if she goes to go into a defensive roll, you're always going to get the same thing. Your partner will go into a high tripod and she will jump forward over your body. And you'll end up in the same position now where you can go in and start playing a game to move to front headlock. If you feel you're going to be losing this battle and you can't get your hand set in time, we always look to go in and control the wrist. Now, as my partner's trying to flatten me out and get her head higher than mine, all I'm going to do is tuck my partner's wrist to her far hip. Now, as she has to flatten me out, I'm going to look to roll with concave shoulders over my left shoulder and just bring my knees to my chest because she has no base of support now out in this direction. If I just try to do that, she just bases her hand out, I get stuck. Now, when she goes to drive me forward, we just move into this position here, where now you have the choice of either one, coming up in the top position, as we did before, and playing a positional game, or looking to go in side control and then progressively into mounted position, where I go to side control and I move across the shin mount, whatever the case is, depending on how advanced your partner is. Or you can move into this scenario where you're both facing belly up, and you go into front headlock. So she gets past my legs and the correct side she wants to pass to. If I see my hand emerging, I have hope. If I don't see my hand emerging, I have to switch to a positional game. Now, as she goes to flatten me out from here, we get up to top position, and now we can play our game however we want from here. If you feel like you try to take your partner out in the way, and your partner just has such good timings and is so good from these positions, and you feel like you just absolutely cannot, you gotta do it, and you feel like your partner just sprawl all the way back, just sprawl. From here, no, go back. Just physically bring your hips down to the floor and back away, yeah. And your partner sprawls and you feel like you just don't have the angle, control the wrist, and now immediately put 2 feet in by your butt, and heist up the front headlock, and now you're in front headlock once again. So it's a simple protocols that we have for each of these positions. If you see your wrist emerging, you can win. If you don't see your wrist emerging, she can win. If she pressures forward into you, good, we take her over. If I go to take her over and she sprawls and changes the angle, we heist up and we're ready to go and play our game from here. This is something that doesn't look super crazy. A lot of people probably haven't seen it before. I started using this in like 2015, I want to say. And it's been working wonders for me. You get a guillotine, the person jumps past your legs and like, oh, I'm past. The second she goes to go back. The second she goes to jump by and flatten me out, good. And we're up and we're ready to go.